It was beautiful, and I wished my daughter could experience such a thing too. This was what led me to propose. As time passed, I could see that she was stressed out, so I tried to pamper and relax her as much as I could. I knew wedding preparations were stressful. I was present for everything, and I was part of every decision. I didn't force her to spend time with my daughter, but I did mention it a couple of times. I wanted to give them both space to form their relationship naturally. I did send my daughter to her a few times, but she usually ignored her, telling her she was busy or making up an excuse. I didn't like it. I could see she spent time with her daughters, and now that we were going to be a family, she should make an effort too. 3 months into the engagement, I brought it up. I told her how I felt and explained that my daughter was an important part of my life. Now that she and I were engaged, I expected her to make an effort towards my daughter. I asked her how she would feel if I ignored her daughters and didn't have much contact with them. That seemed to give her the message. She apologized and told me she would start putting in more effort. 2 months passed, and she had taken my daughter out 2 or 3 times. It wasn't much, but at least she was trying. I understood that the wedding was nearing and she had other things to do too. My daughter was really sad that she couldn't come to the wedding. I felt really bad. I spoke to my fiancé about it and asked her to at least let our kids be there. After all, they were our family. She said it would be too stressful and she didn't want them to make a mess. I tried explaining it to my daughter, but she was hurt and cried a little. My heart broke. I really wanted her to be a part of my big day. She understood, though. Let's move on to my wedding day. When I entered the venue, I loved how everything looked. It was beautiful. But as I looked around while walking inside, I was surprised to see both of her daughters and some of her nieces there. I stopped midway in shock. I had asked and tried to convince her to let at least our kids be at the wedding, and here I see all the kids and her family standing there all dressed up. I felt angry. This was a no-kids wedding, right? Then why were they there? I walked right back out. I could hear whispers behind me. It was mostly our family and friends, about 30 people. The doors of the venue shut. Her sister came out a minute later and asked me what happened. I asked why there were kids at the wedding. She grew nervous and tried to make an excuse, but I blew her off and walked away. I tried calling my fiancé because I wanted an answer, but I couldn't reach her. 10 minutes later, a car pulled up, and it was my fiancé. She smiled at me, confused. I was very angry at this point. I had seen the look on my daughter's face when I told her she couldn't attend. She was a part of me, and I loved her to death. I had still compromised for my fiancé. As she walked near me, I spat out, "Why are the kids at the wedding?" I could see the surprise on her face. I didn't get an answer. Everybody was out of the car and questioning what was going on. I asked her again, "Why are your daughters and nieces, practically every child in your family, there at the venue? This is a no-kids wedding, right?" She started off, saying she could explain. I waited. She told me that this was a last-minute decision since they had no one to watch them, so she let them come to the wedding. Can you believe her? I laughed in her face. I asked her if she thought I was a fool. I told her she knew how badly I wanted my daughter to be there, and she had insisted on this no-kids rule. And now she was telling me that this was a last-minute decision? I laughed in her face again. I asked her where she had managed to get matching dresses at the last moment. Her mother came up to me and asked me not to make a scene over such a small thing, and I lost it. I yelled at her to back off. I glared at her and asked how she would feel if her fiancé's daughters and nieces were all there at a no-kids wedding and her daughter wasn't. That shut her up. Her father didn't know what was going on. He asked his daughter about it, and she started tearing up. I was raging though. I asked her if this is what she meant by starting a family. I told her my daughter seemed to be nowhere in there. She started saying that it was a mistake. She apologized and tried to hold my hand, but I stepped back. I told her this wasn't what I had envisioned when I proposed to her. I walked back inside and went up to the minister. I took the mic from him and announced myself. I told everyone there was a change in plans. She came running in at that moment. I announced that the wedding was off and made the reason very clear too. I didn't want to be